Good afternoon, we are now live.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Iciar Martinez. I'm the Vice Chair of the Market Intelligence Committee at the FTTH Council Europe, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this session. Today, we are going to share with you an exclusive preview of the latest edition of the Market Panorama, which is one of the key studies produced by the FTTH Council Europe every year. Next. Before we dive into the content of the webinar, let me briefly introduce the organization behind this work. For those who may not be familiar with it, the FTTH Council Europe is an European industry association founded in 2004 with the mission of advancing full fiber connectivity across the continent. Today, the Council brings together more than 160 member companies representing the full value chain of FTTH. Our activities range from providing expertise and market intelligence to bringing the industry together through events and networking platforms. One of these is our annual FTTH conference, which will take place this April in London. And if you have the opportunity to attend, I really encourage you not to miss it. Next. Today's session is part of the FTTH webinar series, where we regularly share analysis and insights with the industry. The objective of these webinars is to provide perspectives from different angles across the fiber ecosystem, helping better understand both the progress that has been made and the challenge that still lie ahead. Next. Before we begin, just a couple of practical points. The webinar is being recorded and will be available afterwards. Throughout the webinar, you are welcome to submit your questions through the platform, and we will try to address some of them during the Q&A at the end of the session, and the rest of them by email in the next weeks. So next, what we are going to cover today. In this webinar, we will present the latest figure on fiber deployment and adoption across Europe. We will look at how coverage and take-up are evolving across different markets, which countries are currently driving fiber rollout, and what those trends may mean for the next phase of European fiber market. The report is developed together with our research partner, IDATE, based on extensive market data and direct input from operators and industry stakeholders across the region. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Roland Montaigne, Principal Analyst at IDATE, who has been working on the Market Panorama for many years and will guide us through the latest data and trends from this year's report. So Roland, over to you.
Thank you, Isia, for your kind introduction. Good morning, all. It's a great pleasure for me to present this last edition of the Euro FTTH Panorama. Before starting, some important definition on the method. Well, this panorama is giving the status of fiber to the home, fiber to the building in Europe measure at September last year. This is the methodology mainly based on a bottom-up approach. It means that we have direct contact, interviews, sending questionnaire with the main deployers of fiber to the homes in Europe. But there is also a part when we are checking the data with exchange within the FTTH Council Europe members, but also with the different regulators of the European Commission. The geographical scope of this panorama is quite vast. we have two main metrics, a measurement on EU 27 plus UK and a measurement on EU 39, and Balkan countries also today is part of this panorama. You see that EU 39 detail composition is quite vast, going from Portugal to Kazakhstan. I would like here to focus on one important definition to better understand what we will show in the panorama. First important definition is the one talking about household. Here, when we talk about household, we take into account primary residence, but also secondary residence and vacant homes. Homes passed are the premises with a service provider that has the capability to connect with FTTH, FTTB network in a minimum additional installation. With home passed, we're taking here into account when there is overlay in the country. That could be the case in some countries in Europe. On optical socket is reflect the way that you can have multiple socket in the location of a single home. So here we are counting the socket for each operator. The subscribers is here the household who are really paying to have a fiber subscription. Then we have three ratios quite important in this panorama. The first one is the coverage rate. It is the proportion homes passed on the total of household in the country. The take-up rate is the subscribers as a proportion of homes passed. And we have then the penetration rate, which is subscribers as a proportion of the total household of a country. Here, what is the main overview and the main trends for this year panorama? Well, the key figures at September last year is as following. We have counting 295 million FTTHB homes passed to be compared to 160 million FTTH subscribers. You see here in the different column the main metrics for EU 39 and EU 27 plus UK. What can be said is that, well, the FTTH rollout is reaching a kind of maturity in Europe with a little bit more than 79 homes covered in the EU 39. So it reflects that we are today shifting to a large-scale deployment to a post-rollout phase. Nevertheless, there is a structural gap remaining between what we call coverage and adoption. Indeed, we have in Europe a penetration rate of only, I would say, 43%. So it means that there's still progress in the conversion of a covered home on a subscribed home. This is key also to have a network monetization, which is now the main challenge in Europe. Indeed, we have 54 take-up rate. There is a progress, of course, but migration from copper to cable, from migration to fiber from copper and cable is always key in some countries. If we look in terms of progression, what are the key trends in Europe? The news are quite good. As you can see, we have still a progression of 2 digits in terms of coverage, a little bit less this year with plus 9% in terms of growth of homes passed. And we are still a progression, the same as last year in terms of new homes, new subscribers homes with a plus of 13%. So we have early sign of a coverage plateau emerging in Europe because of the maturity of certain market. But this migration to the subscriber phase is still stable, as you can see, in terms of growth. So we should experience a more mature phase in terms of rollout in the years to come. But today, the growth in terms of homes passed is still quite important with +9%. If we talk about the homes passed and the coverage rate, well, you have here the countries in Europe with more of 1 million homes passed. We see here in terms of volume the 5 top countries in Europe. France is again taking the lead, more than 29 million, followed by Germany, close to 25 million, United Kingdom, close to 24 million, Italy, more than 22%, and Turkey and Spain are in the vicinity of 19 million. It's important here to see what has been the 5 fastest growing market. First, on the left of the side, in terms of volume, you see that Germany is at this panorama #1 with plus 4.9 million homes passed in 1 year, from September 2004 to September 25. So nearly 5 million new homes passed in Germany. #2 is Turkey with plus 3.7 million new homes passed. #3, it's the UK with plus 2.8 million new homes passed. Then we have Italy at 2.5 million new homes, and Poland nearly 1.5 million new homes passed in 1 year. On the right side of the slide, you see in terms of percentage of growth, it means what are the most dynamic countries, not necessarily with a huge volume, but in terms of dynamism. Belgium is #1 with a growth of 32%, Malta plus 27%, Switzerland is also presenting plus 27%, and Germany is at the place #4 with plus 24, followed by Turkey. This year, we also measure a new KPI, which is the way the network is deployed, doing the difference when a network, a fiber network, is deployed under a wholesale-only operator or deployed with the integrated operators, for example, the incumbent operators. The main message is that the situation is quite heterogeneous in Europe. You see here with the colors the different category on the map. Wholesale-only operator has become key infrastructure investor in several European markets. This is the case, as you can see in the map, of Sweden, Italy, and the UK, where wholesale-only operators account for more than half of FTTH homes passed. Vertically integrated operators remain dominant in several large markets. This is the case in Germany, Spain, and the Netherlands, where here the development is primarily in the hands of the incumbent. Then we have countries where it's more a hybrid market structure and it's more shared between integrated and wholesale. This is the case, for example, of Switzerland, France, Ireland, and Czech Republic. We have here the map, quite important, on the coverage rate on the several countries in Europe. I remind you that this coverage rate is measuring the ratio household passed on the total of household last September last year. You see that at the EU27 plus UK or EU39, we had a nice progression of +7 and +6 points year by year. And when you see the map, well, we can say that we have maybe 3 families of dynamic region. where the growth is more than 80 or 90% in the north of Europe, with the pioneers like Sweden or Norway, for example. Then we have the south of Europe, also with the pioneers of fiber to the home. France, Portugal, Spain are there. We see progression this year of Italy, pointing out at 72%. And the third category is also the eastern part of Europe, with the particularity of having a lot of population living in MDU, in large MDU, and this is quite easy for the business modeling of fiber to the home. We have the new markets, the last big markets in Europe progressing. The UK is presenting 80% in terms of coverage, and Germany also is approaching the 60% with 56% in terms of homes coverage. We can follow here on the subscribers and take-up rate to measure the commercial success. This is the first slide presenting the FTTH subscription over time in 1,000 homes in Europe. Number one in terms of volume is France on the total, 26 million. Then we have Spain, close to 18 million. United Kingdom, more than 11 million. Turkey, 8.4. Ukraine, 7.8. Then we have Italy, Germany, and Romania in the vicinity of 6 million, and followed by Poland. We can also here look at the dynamics over 1 year, the difference between September 2004 and September 2005 in terms of volumes, talking on subscribers. Well, the country representing the most in terms of new subscribers in 1 year is the UK, with plus 3.6 million new subscribers in 1 year, followed by France, plus 2.6 million in 1 year, then Spain, plus 2 million in 1 year, then we have Turkey with plus 1.4 million in 1 year, and then Italy with plus 1.2 million in 1 year. As we did for the homes passed, on the right side of the slide, you have the most dynamic market. We know that Greece is more at the early stage of deployment, but in terms of dynamism, is today number one in terms of new subscribers with a growth of 46%. UK with plus 45%. Croatia plus 45%. Then we have Belgium with plus 33% in terms of growth, and then Cyprus with plus 30%. If we look at the commercial success, the first interesting KPI is what we call the penetration rate. This penetration rate is doing the ratio subscribers on household. First, at the EU27 plus UK, we have a growth at 42% of nearly plus 6 points year to year, which is quite good. And EU39 has a growth of 4.8 plus year to year. You see here where the penetration rate is the more important. Well, the Nordics is presenting good result here with Sweden and Norway also. East part of Europe, we have some candidates quite highly presented here. Not all. The difference of what's going on in concerning the homes passed is quite different. The same from the south. We have good result in France and in Spain. with more than 80%. But in some countries, there is competition with other platforms. And that's why we have only 53 of penetration in Portugal, despite the high coverage, because there is still competition with other platforms, with cable modem, especially in Portugal. Is the same also in the eastern part of Europe, when there can be also competition with cable modem in this part of Europe, even in some countries with some local Wi-Fi operators. It is the case in countries such as Republic Czech, for example. So where there is competition with other platforms, there is a challenge for fiber operator to convince residential to shift to the best technology, which is fiber to the home. But of course, the battle can be tricky in front of other platforms. Take-up rate is also another way to measure the fiber adoption. Here with the take-up rate, we are measuring the ratio of subscribers on household passed. You see that in EU 27 plus UK and EU 39 is nearly 55%. It means that 55% of the homes passed today are subscribing to fiber to the home. A little better result in terms of take-up, because the comparison with household are less numerous than the total household in the country, of course. And you see the little bit the same phenomenon when there is competition with other platforms. Well, this is quite challenging for fiber. I already mentioned Portugal. We can mention also the UK or Germany, where VDSL is still active, and the same also in Italy, with only 30% of penetration. So this is the main challenge today for fiber operator to compete in front of those competitive platforms. So who is leading the road to full fiber? First, we are here looking at the coverage to adoption. So it's another way to present where the challenge here. You have here in blue the total number of subscribers in each country, compare to the homes passed without subscription in orange, and at the top of the slide you have the total homes passed in the country. So you see that in EU 27 plus UK, there are 86 million homes passed without a subscription. And this represents 45% of total homes in the region. So there's still a challenge to convince these 45% of total homes passed in the region without a subscription. And you see that in some countries they represent quite a lot. It's the case of Germany, 18.7, Italy, more than 15 million, Poland, 8 million, and in other countries it can be up to 2 million, like in Hungary or Bulgaria, for example, or in Belgium or Czech Republic. So Italy, Germany, United Kingdom, and Poland still have the most homes passed without a subscription. we have still work left to do to go up to 90 plus coverage in Europe. This is representing in this slide in a dark orange the homes passed, and in the nearly yellow color the homes left to be passed, and you have the total household at the top of the slide. So what's the point? We had nearly 20 million households passed this year, which is a good score. But in EU 27 plus UK, we have again 58 million homes left to pass. So compared to last year, we see acceleration. In some countries that was lagging behind. In particular, Germany, the UK, Poland, and Italy have gone from 50 million households to cover, this was last year, to now 37 million homes to cover. So there is a progression, but there's still work to be done in Europe. Of course, the volume is different from the certain countries such as Latvia or Slovakia, Greece, nearly 2 million homes to be covered, Czech Republic, 3 million homes to be covered, Belgium, more than 3 million, and the volume, of course, are huge when you are looking at Poland, UK, Italy, and the more vast volume left to be covered is, of course, in Germany with more than 19 million homes not covered today. We also measuring in this panorama the deployment in rural areas. We know that the most challenging part of a country to be covered by fiber, of course, is a rural area where there is not a dense population. Some house can be isolated. So this is a focus also for the European Commission or also government in the countries. The rural FTTH coverage in the EU 27 plus UK progress slowly, but by 2 points year to year. In EU 27 plus UK, it is today at 75%. You see in the table and in the map where the rural coverage is important in Europe. It can be in the Nordics. You have the example of Sweden with 75%. It can be in Ireland also 80%. Italy is doing well also with 72%, and the south of Europe is also doing well with 92% with France, and 90% with Spain, or close to 80% in Portugal. You see also in the table the progression from 10 years that can be quite spectacular in some countries. We also producing a forecast up to 2031. This is the forecast we are produced this year. We see that we count on the progression of the subscribers. In 2031, the penetration in EU27 plus UK should be 79%. I remind you that in September 2005, the penetration rate was 42%. So we should grow from 42% to 79% in terms of penetration. This is directly linked, of course, on the subscriber forecast. On the other side, on the right side of the slide, we have also produced a forecast in terms of the evolution of home passed. We preview here that the forecasts in 2031 should be, in terms of coverage, 92% for EU27 plus UK, and we have today, in September 2005, a coverage of 77%. So a growth from 77% to 92% in terms of coverage for FTTH. Finally, we also producing what we call the global ranking. In this global ranking, it is at the worldwide level, thanks with the cooperation with the other FTTH Council worldwide. Penetration here, it's again the ratio subscribers on the total homes in each country. We are presenting here only countries with at least 500,000 households in the country. There is a little difference also with blue and orange. Blue is when it is fiber to the home subscribers, and the orange part is when in a country there is a part of fiber to the building subscribers. The podium, the top three worldwide is number one UAE with 99.7. Number two is China, more than 94, and South Korea is 91. We have European countries sitting among the world leading FTTH market. You can see here you have Spain and France both rank among the global top 5. You have also Romania and Norway standing out in the top 10. So this means that European country has also example for the adoption of fiber to the home. Of course, we have many other European countries that appearing in the upper part of the ranking. We see Finland, we see Ukraine, we see Portugal, we see Denmark, also in the countries with more than 40% of penetration. Always in this country with at least 50,000 households, we have here the countries with less than 40% of penetration. And you see here the two large countries starting the adventure of fiber later than the other ones. I mean, United Kingdom is today in this category with 38% of penetration rate. Italy is still in this part with 21% of penetration, and Germany is nearly at the bottom with nearly 14% of penetration rate. But we have also large countries being in this category. I mentioned just United States, which is where the coverage is not complete, far from that, and the adoption also, despite fiber has been deployed quite early in the US, is still quite low at 31%, because there is a large territory to be covered, but there is also competition, especially with cable modem in in the US. So to conclude, we also measuring here the other countries. I mean the countries under 500,000 household. We have also in this category European countries. Iceland is there, Andorra is there, Monaco is there, Luxembourg is there, and Malta also is there. So those states with under 500,000 household in this category, we can mention also European countries being there. So this is my main message, and I will let the mic to Domenico, and I remind you that I will present a short version of those slides during the conference in London, and I will be pleased to meet you and a discussion with some of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roland and ICR. I'm Domenico, so I'm starting with the conclusion of this webinar on the Market Panorama. So what we can say, so as Roland says us, we are now in a late stage rollout phase. So we consider that EU 39 countries are more or less a coverage of 79% with 295 home passed and 165 million subscribers. So the take-up is around 54%. So the core challenges are swift from expanding the footprint to converting network availability into active lines. So also the past year, so the 25 confirmed this trend because the coverage increased of 6 point percentage and the take-up from 2 point percentage. So it's important to migration from the copper to the fiber. Rural also is advancing because there also the rural coverage are increasing, and the long-term outlook to 2031 remains strong. So in synthesis, we have with the coverage nearing the maturity, and adoption is now the main lever to create value. So I would like to start with some question for Roland. The first one, Roland, question for you is, so we can see, as you can see, we have early signs of coverage plateau with 21 countries with more of 80% of coverage. So in which country do you see the real bottleneck, and which level co-investment, permitting, simplification are most decisive to complete the coverage?
Yes, Domenico, well, you're right. Czech Republic, Poland, Belgium, Italy, and even Germany are examples where there are still millions of homes left to be covered. And in those countries, we see common barriers like lack of technical skills for the technicians, difficulties to obtain a right-of-ways. Maybe for Germany, we can add also the difference between landers concerning technical difference and regulation particularity. So these are the main barriers. Well, in terms of solution to ease the right-of-ways, maybe the right approach is at a legislative level to have a law to help this implementation, and maybe borrowing the differences in the land situation in Germany. For the workforce and technical skills, now we see availability of skilled technicians in countries where FTTH has already been deployed. There is maybe a possibility to engage those cross-frontier companies to help also FTTH in some markets.
Okay, thank you, Ron. And another question that I have. So we see that several European telcos have a long history of FTTH rollout. So how do you see their return on investment evolving?
Well, when we look at the economy of telcos, some integrated telcos, for example, I would say that mobile services are not more the milk cow. It means that we see today, in terms of ARPU, the average revenue per user, a shift of value from mobile to fixed ARPU, and in particular with FTTH. Today, it is with fixed access, and especially when FTTH is deployed, then we see a growth of ARPU compared to mobile. And this is more and more true when there is more bandwidth being deployed with 1 gig or even more than 1 gig. Then we see this can allow a leverage of ARPU from the telcos. So today we are really in this part of history when the value has shifted from mobile to fixed, and this is good news for telcos that have already invested in fiber to the home. They can today work on return on investment on those FTTH rollout.
Yes, I agree. Sorry, another question. So we have remaining 3-5% of homes in Europe that will be difficult to cover with fiber. No, when we arrive at the late stage of rollout, we have the question: what I manage the last 5%, the last 10%. So how do you see the LEO satellite or FWA offers evolving?
Yes, it is a good point. We know that it will be challenging to cover these 3 to 5% homes, of course. There is solution coming, and there is a lot of promise on the LEO satellite. I had the pleasure to see the last announcement during Mobile World Congress this year by Starlink. But we have to be cautious. I see, of course, LEO satellites are proposing hundreds of megabits in terms of bandwidth, but the technology will always be less performing than fiber, because fiber, especially with the progress of GPON, can offer today more than 1 gig. We know that XGS-PON is already deployed in Europe, but there is other technology being ready and mature today to deliver more bandwidth with fiber for the consumers. 25 PON is there, 50 GPON is there also. So, of course, LEO satellites can be a solution for waiting for fiber in certain part and region of Europe, but there is no matter of competition in terms of technology between LEO satellites and fiber. For fixed wireless access, where we see some players deploying fixed wireless access, there is Italy is a good case with Eolo, for example. This is a solution with a more sovereign, I would say, compared to LEO satellite. That can be also a good option, waiting for fiber in certain rural areas.
Okay, thank you. So now I would like to pass to talking about the take-up. Okay, so what are the 3 initiatives that are most measurable impact on increasing take-up? For example, let me say the switch off. For example, we see in this year, in the last year increase, a lot of subscribers from the countries that starting a switch off process or are in a switch off phase. I don't know, what is from your point of view the most so the initiatives that most increase the cap?
you're right. For increasing the take-up, well, there is different initiative. Copper switch off is maybe the most simplest and the best one. We see in countries where copper switch off has been applied. This is good for the take-up. Spain is a good example. Today, with the extension of copper, there is no more competition with VDSL, which was a platform to compete with fiber. So this is a good way to guide the residential to fiber, and it is good news also for the incumbent because they don't have to operate two networks but only one. We see also some example of fiber-only offers applying in Europe at some aggressive price. It means that telco can offer fiber only for internet access, no phone, no TV, but only a good line for doing what you want. And this is happening in France with Bouygues Telecom, and this offer pure fiber, but this is happening also in Spain with DG and Smart Fiber. So this is a way to be quite aggressive and to lowering take-up also.
Yes, there isn't just an only one initiative, but for sure the switch off, I think it's the faster way, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes. Another question. So in market with a strong wholesale only presence, okay, do you observe meaningful difference in rural coverage, speed, and adoption versus market dominated by vertically integrated operators? So what do you think about that?
It is sure that wholesale option, open access network, is certainly the best solution for easing rural rollout in rural areas. This fiber rollout in rural areas. We see example when this wholesale only model is working efficiently. This is the case of Italy with open fiber and 72% of rural coverage in Italy. This is the case of France also with 80+% in terms of coverage in rural areas. So those two examples are very good to demonstrate the validity of wholesale model in rural area. Why? Because deploying a wholesale only model, you can share investment cost in rural areas when we know that it is quite costly to deploy an FTTH network. And of course, in many, we have many examples in Europe when we see state aid subsidies from the government to help develop open access in rural areas. This part is also key to accelerate fiber rollout in rural areas.
Yes, I think it's in rural areas. I think it's most one of the critical factor that can support to a full coverage, and also the agenda of the European Commission. So you mentioned before that also the importance of the performance of the fiber, and how do you see the new generation PON rollouts across Europe, and so in particular XGS PON deployment? So what do you see? Because from this year we starting in our Market Panorama also to analyze the deployment of this kind of this new technology. So what do you so how do you see about this the deployment of this technology?
Yes, as I was saying, delivering more bandwidth is good for the players because they can monetize this. They can leverage ARPU if they sell more bandwidth to consumers. And that's why there is several cases in Europe when what we call the NG-PON starting to be rolled out. The first of NG-PON families, of course, the EGS-PON, allowing to provide 10 G-PON symmetric. Well, the XGS PON is progressing in Europe, and thanks to the metric we measured this year, we see that in selected countries, we have XGS PON adoption rollout progressing quite fast. It's the case of France, it's the case of Switzerland, of Hungary. It's the case in the UK, but only for the AltNet. We have some AltNet in the UK, such as City Fibre, Netomnia, Next Fibre from Virgin Media, deploying nearly natively XGS PON. In other countries, well, it will be maybe a more longer road to go to deploy XGS PON, but be sure that this technology will be deployed in Europe, because there is value for the consumer and there is value also for the operator to leverage their ARPU.
Okay, Roland, thank you very much. So we are at the final stage of this webinar. Let me just give you some more information in terms that the full reports will be downloadable from tomorrow. So on FTTH Council website, you can go on our website, and you will have available the reports. A band before the conference, also we will publish the per country report, that the report that we introduced 2 years ago. And also this year we will introduce also another report. It's an highlight report, so that you have the hot topics, the key highlights on all our assets. So what can I say? So see you at the FTTH conference in London in April. So thank you very much for your attention, and good job. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.